You think the ocean is calm. You think the worst of it is a wave, a storm, maybe a shark if you've seen the movies. But right now, in the middle of nowhere, between Iceland and Greenland, there's a waterfall 3 times taller than anything on land, and it's roaring beneath your feet without making a single sound. No one falls into it, no one hears it. Most people will live their whole life and never know it exists. But it's there. 2 miles of water, falling in the dark every second, forever. And here's the part that should bother you. This isn't some rare glitch in the ocean. It's a machine, a gravity engine, built entirely out of cold water and salt, and it has been quietly running the climate of half the planet since before humans had a word for weather. So let's go find it. Picture the spot where Greenland and Iceland almost touch. On the surface, it looks like nothing. But underneath, there's a cliff. Not a small one. A cliff on the ocean floor, and water is pouring over the edge of it right now, dropping 11,500 feet into the dark. Angel Falls, the tallest waterfall on land, the one people fly across the world to see, it's 3,200 feet. This thing beneath the strait swallows it 3 times over, and it's invisible. Which leads to the obvious question: why doesn't anyone see it? Because it's not water falling through air, it's water falling through water. Cold water, dense and heavy, sliding underneath warmer water, like a hand slipping under a blanket. No splash, no noise, no tourists with cameras. Just a silent 2-mile drop that's been happening every single day for thousands of years.
But here's where it stops being a curiosity and starts being terrifying. That cold water isn't falling for no reason. It's being pulled by its own weight into a current that drags it south along the bottom of the entire Atlantic Ocean. Scientists have a clinical little name for it: the conveyor belt. That name is doing a lot of work to make this sound boring. What it actually is a closed loop of water circling the entire globe, hauling heat from the equator up toward Europe, then dragging the cold, used-up water back down into the deep to start over.
That's why this isn't just a waterfall. It's a pump the size of an ocean. And it's the only reason winters in London aren't the same as winters in Siberia. Stop that pump, and you don't just lose a pretty waterfall. You lose the climate as we know it. Sailors have been describing this place for centuries, long before anyone had instruments to explain it. They called them holes in the ocean, spots where a current would simply vanish, where the surface looked normal, but something underneath was swallowing it whole. Some of those old logs claimed something even stranger, that a ship could drift off its heading near one of these holes, nudged sideways by a current strong enough to grab a hull and quietly steer it, without anyone on deck ever feeling it happen. For a long time, that sounded like superstition, a sailor's story to fill the dead hours on a long watch. But modern sensors prove the holes are real. The water really does disappear, dragged straight down into the abyss in a column 200 meters wide, racing along the seafloor for over 600 miles. Powerful enough, in the right conditions, to tug at a vessel from below, the way an undertow tugs at your ankles, except this undertow is 2 miles deep. So the legend wasn't wrong, it just didn't have the language yet. Now here's where it gets stranger. As of this year, researchers tracking that current near the deep ridges of the seafloor picked up something nobody expected. That southbound river of cold water is speeding up, not slowing down, speeding up in places where the old models said it should be calm, which means something down there is changing, and nobody can fully explain why yet. But that's only the surface mystery, because once you start asking what's underneath that ridge, what's actually down at the bottom of that 2-mile drop, you stop talking about ocean currents. You start talking about the inside of the Earth itself. For as long as people have told stories, they've told this same one. A door at the bottom of the world. A kingdom underneath us, untouched by wars, hidden from the surface. Different cultures, different centuries, same shape of story. Agartha, Shambhala, Asgard, Eden. A paradise always just out of reach, always underground. So when explorers finally got the tools to actually look inside the Earth, you'd think the legend would just quietly die. It didn't. Because the tool they used works almost exactly like an X-ray. Send energy through a solid object and measure what comes out the other side different. Doctors use it on your bones. Scientists use it on the entire planet, firing seismic waves through rock and timing how they bounce back, building a picture of what's hiding thousands of miles beneath us. And when they pointed that X-ray at the deep mantle, they found something that should not exist, according to the boring version of the story we were all taught in school. Water. Not an ocean exactly. It isn't even sitting there as liquid. It's locked into the actual molecular structure of the rock itself, squeezed in as part of the crystal, hundreds of miles down, inside a mineral most people have never heard of. The planet isn't holding water. The planet's rock has water built into its bones. That hidden reservoir may hold more water than every ocean on Earth's surface combined. Let that sit for a second. Everything blue you've ever seen from a plane window, the Pacific, the Atlantic, all of it, might be the smaller pile. So the old myths weren't describing a kingdom of glittering crystal cities, but they weren't describing nothing either. They were pointing, however clumsily, at a true and almost unbelievable fact. The inside of this planet is not the solid, dead rock most of us imagine. It is wet. It is moving. It is alive with processes we are only just beginning to map. But the Earth cannot be hollow. We've checked. Gravity tells the story. Mass tells the story. A hollow planet would weigh wrong, spin wrong, pull on the moon wrong. Every measurement we have says the same thing. Solid all the way down, with water locked inside rock, not sloshing in some empty cavern waiting for a civilization to live in it. So no glowing metropolis, no flying machines under our feet, no ancient race waiting for the surface world to destroy itself so they can return. What's left instead is stranger, a planet that is quietly drinking and storing more water inside itself than it shows on its skin. And we only found out a few hundred years into actually looking. And the waterfall in the strait connects directly to this. Because once that cold water finishes its 2-mile fall, it doesn't just stop. It travels along the seafloor, threading past ridges and trenches where the crust is thin and fractured. The same kind of cracked, restless rock that, deep enough down, leaks into that hidden water layer in the mantle. So is the ocean's drain a closed loop, or does some thin, almost imperceptible trickle of it actually feed the planet's deeper reservoir, one crack at a time over millions of years? Nobody can answer that, yet. Not with certainty.
We've mapped less than a third of the ocean floor in real detail. Of the deepest parts, the trenches, the cataracts, the places where this waterfall ends, we've laid eyes on less than a sliver, a patch of seafloor smaller than a single small state, out of an ocean covering most of this planet. Which means somewhere down there, past the edge of the waterfall, past the edge of the map, there could be entire landscapes no human has ever seen. Not a hollow earth, not a hidden kingdom, something arguably stranger, a real world sitting in total darkness that we are only now building the tools to find. And the next generation of those tools is already being built. Unmanned submersibles, designed to survive pressures and currents too violent for any person to follow.
So the myth was never really about a kingdom underground. It was about us, standing on a thin, solid shell, walking over an ocean that drains like a bathtub into the dark, never once looking down. If this got under your skin, there's a deeper rabbit hole waiting for you. Hit subscribe before you go chasing it.